for the big one, Wade, Iron Man 2.
Oh, there it is. that was not cued.
Now you realize that Iron Man 2 is opening up in more screens in North America than any other film ever made.
I know.
Over 4,000 screens.
There's a reason for that.
Because there's pent-up demand for the film?
Pent-up demand for the film, and I think they want to cut off word of mouth at the pass.
Well, hang on for a second. Before we get into that,
Yes.
and may I just say that Wade and I saw different screenings. Wade saw a screening in Century City, California, Los Angeles. I saw the screening in Burbank, kind of near where NBC is. So I was not inundated with Wade's hate waves.
But you know what's
the waves
weird?
that when he hates things, it makes me hate things.
You know what was weird?
There was some separation there, which is nice. I still felt it, like the Force, and we'll talk to Chad Vader later, but like the Force, I did feel it, but it wasn't quite as strong.
But it's weird, my version didn't star Robert Downey Jr., it starred Timothy Hutton.
Is that right?
Yeah, it did.
Exactly.
So maybe that was the problem.
So as if you need to know, Iron Man 2 is, of course, the sequel to the original, and luckily all the major players are back, except the writer. There's a new writer, Justin Theroux.
Who's actually an actor.
Who is an actor.
Yeah, but we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. So this is basically a continuation of the original film where we meet Iron Man. He's basically cleaned up the world because Iron Man is pretty much his own one-man army. And of course the government wants to make their own versions of Iron Man. Of course Robert Downey Jr., who has that thing in his chest, it's slowly killing him, so he's got to figure that out. Meanwhile there's Mickey Rourke, who's just chewing the scenery, having a great time as Whiplash, the main villain of the piece. And the issue is, when you do a sequel, especially a sequel to a big popular film like Iron Man, there is a tendency to want to make it bigger, louder, faster, stronger, more. And it's a tendency that Iron Man 2 does lapse into. The film is definitely over-plotted. There's too much going on. I think there was that impetus to sort of put all sorts of stuff into it. So I didn't like that much, that part of it. But I will say this. I like the characters. I like the world that they live in. I generally had a good time. Of course, at the end, much like the ending of the original Iron Man, just became another big, gigantic, big fight. This one is even a more bigger, more gigantic, more big fight, which is even more like just a bunch of people running around. Was not a fan of that. But what gets me through it, again, is the fact that I like these characters. I like the world that they live in. I think you would have nothing if you didn't have Robert Downey Jr. He's the wild card. He's the guy that gets you through everything you don't like about the film, and even everything you don't like about the first film, which I liked a lot. So I'm willing to give it a pretty unconditional thumbs up with reservations that shouldn't detract that much from your overall enjoyment. Let Wade take over now.
Oh, I like the first film a lot. I did. I like the first film an awful lot. Not my favorite superhero film of the Marvel set. I like Spider-Man 2 and X-Men 2 much better. But I like the first Iron Man a lot. And that's why I can't get behind this one, because the first film established, it set the bar for the Iron Man story. It set the bar for what we expect out of the character of Tony Stark and his struggles and the characters around him. And I felt like here all they were doing was trying to pile on more. Like you said, it's exactly what you said, but it wasn't in the service of a story. It was in the service of, oh, the audience wants bigger fight scenes. They want more plotting. They want more jeopardy. They want a more evil villain. So we've got to somehow crank up all of these different dials to 11. Well, all of these different dials aren't in sync. And, for example, the big problem with Whiplash, when Mickey Rourke shows up on the racetrack in Monaco, which we've all seen from the commercial and the trailer, and it's, you know, they were teasing that a year ago, that's a great moment. It never gets back to that. You never feel that excitement about the encounter between Iron Man and Whiplash ever again, because Mickey Rourke vanishes and he's just tinkering in a lab for an hour. He's gone from the movie for that whole middle hour when almost nothing happens. His worries about, is this thing in my chest going to poison me? I never really got with it. Then he gets drunk and he's wearing the Iron Man outfit and dancing in it at a party. Silly, too much weird, goofy, wacky humor that completely derails you. Not really a compelling dilemma for the character. So it never got on track for me, and I was really bored for that middle hour.
In the film, and again, we're agreeing that the movie's basically overplotted. Now, in the film,
way overplotted.
There is a sequence where there's a big party, and Don Cheadle, who has taken over from Terrence Howard as the role of the Army guy, he dresses up in this other Iron Man costume as War Machine, and they get into a big fight. And I'm watching the film going, I don't know why they're fighting. Why are they fighting?
I don't know why they're
because
fighting.
Because somewhere on page 56 of the script it says you got to fight.
I also don't know how Don Cheadle suddenly knows how to, like, he owns the suit, man. He knows how to fly and do everything and shoot. It took Robert Downey Jr. like months to figure all that stuff out. He was trying to get to master the flying and all that stuff. I mean, that's part of what was great in the first film. You got the sense that the suit really was something you had to master. It was like learning to drive a car, learning to use something.
Even that also, the idea that the movie was willing to stop and make a point and let you watch Robert Downey Jr., let you watch Tony Stark learn how to use that suit, much like the scene, not as effective, I think it's more effective in Iron Man, but much like the scene in the original Spider-Man where Peter Parker is trying to figure out how to spin the webs and fly, he can't figure it out.
Absolutely.
This movie, again, is just this big headlong rush of more, and there's a lot of stuff.
Never takes its time with anything. And it can't afford to because there's too much going on.
That is true.
Yeah.
That being said, I did like the film. I thought it was fine. And by the way, stay until after the end credits.
Yeah, there's always that teaser. They're pushing the Avengers thing still.
Don't.
Oh, come on. We all know. It's what they've done every single one of them for a couple of years now.
And you know what? Here's the thing.
They're all pushing the Avengers. That's the big thing.
I will say this. When you look at this film versus other superhero films, you know, when you see the other superhero films, you're just waiting for Christopher Reeve to become Superman. You're just waiting for Michael Keaton to become Batman. That's all you care about. Michael Keaton's running around doing whatever he does. You don't really care.
I care.
In this movie, really, he is Tony Stark much more than he's Iron Man, and you're okay with that because the Tony Stark character is more interesting than Iron Man. Iron Man's just a guy who flies around and just beats people up.
Yeah, look, I love Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I love Gwyneth Paltrow in these movies. I think Jon Favreau does a great job directing them, but my problem is with the script. Justin Theroux, who wrote the script, I don't even know if I can blame him for it. Now, Justin Theroux, as many people might know, was an actor, still is an actor. You may have remembered him from Mulholland Drive. He was also in, he was pretty creepy in the second Charlie's Angels film, Full Throttle. And he was a screenwriter on
Star Wars.
No, the
Empire Strikes Back.
The Robert Downey Jr. thing. Why am I drawing a blank on it? No, in the jungle, the shooting of the movie.
Oh, Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder. Thank you.
You know what? I had to make him suffer.
Thank you.
I had to.
But no, he was a screenwriter on Tropic Thunder, which was his debut as a screenwriter. And I think because of that, they felt, well, he's got this thing down. He's got the rhythm down, the summer blockbuster thing down. He's friends with Robert Downey Jr. He's friends with Jon Favreau. He's in the mix. So bring him on. Unleash him. But I don't even know how much of him is in this because this is one of those movies where you feel half a dozen studio executives meddling, giving notes, saying, I think there should be more of this in this scene. I don't think this scene is enough of that. And before you know it, you have this Frankenstein monster that is comprised not of one person's vision or of two persons' visions, but of just a whole bunch of notes that have all been delivered into a notebook, and it's got to satisfy 150 different people at every level of the studio. And that's where I also think there's a problem. It doesn't feel like a movie that is coherent and cohesive. It feels like something designed by committee.
And you also have a screenplay that is really, really busy. I mean, these guys, they talk fast, they mumble, they talk out of the sides of their mouths, they're saying all sorts of sarcastic things. And I don't know that the movie really benefited from having both. It's almost like you can have a simple film where people talk fast and say funny things and are sarcastic, right? Or the other way around, but it's tough to have both. If you have both, it's just too much. And the film really is too much. But again, I'm criticizing a film that I basically had a good time at. So,
and I was really, I mean, I had a good time for about a half an hour, and then I was really bored, and it sort of interrupted my boredom with just enough at the end, but it's not enough for me to recommend it. I will say this, though. First Spider-Man movie, good. Second Spider-Man movie, great. Third Spider-Man movie, terrible. Pretty much the same with the X-Men films. Both Hulk films, horrible. This, better than the two Hulk films, better than the third Spider-Man, better than the third X-Men. Not as good as the first or second of the X-Men or the Spider-Man films.
Look at that. That was a quick superhero continuum.
So,
Wade Major, everyone, with the superhero continuum of film quality.
If you have a very short attention span and you don't want to listen to the rest of the review, just go there.
Exactly.
That's
all right, so Iron Man 2, I am conditionally on board. You are not on board.
I'm really disappointed, and I wanted to like it, but I can't recommend it.
So there you go. That is This Weekend in Movies, folks. There it is.